What is up, guys? We have Dr. Umar saying that religion won't end racism. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and let's see what he's saying.
History should not just be celebratory. History should be instructional. History should show us where we messed up, because if you don't learn from the mistakes, you will repeat them. I see us repeating a lot of mistakes. One of them in the area of religion. I see black people identifying with their religion over race. I see African people caring more about being Muslims and Christians than being African, which allows an opportunity for white people who are Christians or Arabs who are Muslims to come in, exploit your emotional attachment to your religion, and they end up using that against us. So when I'm in Africa, there's African brothers who care more about being Muslim than being African. Across the diaspora, you got brothers and sisters who care more about Jesus than they care about black folks. Nothing comes before the race. Pan-Africanism, at least Garvey's Pan-Africanism, we talk about African race first, the African family first. Black is always first. And the reason black is first is God made you black. God made you an African. Christianity is superficial. Islam is superficial. All religions are superficial. Why? Because you can join them. You can also unjoin them.
Don't you think, though, that because if we're saying God made us, though, that the origin is God, though, that the faith would have to be the first connection point?
No, sir, because Christianity is only 2,000 years old and Islam is only 1,500. African people are 2 million years old. Christianity and Islam do not have a monopoly on God.
So I guess that comes from the framing of like maybe origin and like wherever you might stand with particular things like origin. Then
No, we're talking about history. Christianity is 2,000.
No, for sure. Like obviously Judaism being 3,500 years old, Christianity being about 2,000 years old as well. But now if you're talking about the 2 million years old, that comes from your framing of like evolution as well, though, like in terms of where you look at how the world has come to be as well.
I'm saying we were around before Jesus. We were around before Abraham. We were around before Muhammad. And we were worshiping God before those religions. Every country in Africa had an indigenous spiritual system before those religions showed up. So those religions cannot be the foundation for our work because we pre-existed them. I'm not against the religions. Many of my Pan-African forefathers were pastors of the church. I'm simply saying that cannot be the basis for organization because not all black people belong to the same religion. Let me give this another way. The reason the Honorable Marcus Garvey is the greatest Pan-Africanist of all time, the greatest human organizer of all time, and the reason he was most successful than any other organization that came after him is he was one of the only leaders we had who did not put a religion on his movement. The Garvey movement was a government. It was not a religion. Honorable Elijah Muhammad, respect to him, but he put Islam on it. Noble Drew Ali put Islam on it. The Hebrew fathers, they put Hebrew on it. Father Divine, Daddy Grace, they put Christianity on it. Even in the continent, many of the movements had a religious flavor to them. Garvey said, we're not going to do that. African people are spiritually diverse. Allow them the right to worship God as they want. But when they come here, this is about nation building for African people. Whenever you put a religion on a black movement, first of all, you're doing something that's unnecessary because we don't suffer because of what we believe. We suffer because of who we are. But even more importantly than that, because our people are so religiously immature, I'm never going to feel comfortable as a Christian being a part of a Muslim movement. I'm never going to feel completely comfortable as a Muslim being part of a Christian movement. As Malcolm said, leave the religion out of it. Focus on being African. What is wrong with rallying around your biological, psychological, spiritual, genetic, and anthropological connection to the mother continent? That's where we should.
That I agree with. I think where I had a bit of contention was when it's about putting the blackness aspect. I think in the movement, then obviously at the forefront of your mind, the blackness has to be the first.
Religion is an institution.
I think that when it comes now to the religious aspect of it, it's hard to reconcile that. Like Christianity would never stop you from aligning with someone that's Muslim in a fight for justice. At the end of the day, that's
not true.
That's not
because one of the biggest issues we have in Africa and throughout the diaspora, and I've been all through Africa, by the way, but one of the biggest issues we have is religious tribalism.
Yeah, I think that's where the human aspect comes into it. I think we dilute these things. We are flawed people at the end of the day, but I don't think the foundation of these religions or faiths, especially like if you look at the text of Christianity, does not oppose social justice. Like,
but we're not talking about the text. We're not talking about the doctrine. We're talking about the culture and the custom of it.
Yes.
And the bottom line is, and I'm someone whose father was Muslim, mother was Christian, grandma was a Jehovah's Witness. I've had them all, which was a good thing because I was able to learn from them and see them. And I saw, despite all the good, how they were still weapons of separation. Here's the thing. All of those religions are taught from a perspective that says, my way is the only way or the best way. All of the world religions are narcissistic, and they are all dictatorial. Christians believe if you don't accept Christ, that's a problem. Muslims believe if you don't accept Muhammad as the last prophet, that's a problem. You should understand. So those religions are not tolerant. They're not. They want you to accept what they stand for and the way they do.
Now, look, wow, he said a lot here, right? Again, maybe this wasn't the best video for me to react to personally because I don't have a big opinion on religion or don't know too much about religion. But what I will say is, would I say religion gets in the way of, I mean, most religious people I've met, I kind of meet two religious people. I either meet the religious people like Dr. Umar's talking about here, where you kind of get the religious people where it's like you either join my religion or I guess essentially maybe they might say you're going to hell or you're not going to heaven. You get the really extreme religious people. But I also think you get religious people where they won't, you know, they might not, I guess, not agree with your religion or not be a part of your religion, but at the same time, they'd be very open to working with you and would treat you the same. And even if there was a movement, right, or I guess in this case, a black movement, I feel like religious people could come together, right? So, you know what? It's very hard because he's making some good points, but I feel like not all religious people are like that. But I guess with me personally, I'm not a big fan of Marcus Garvey in terms of he was more of a, I don't know a whole lot about his movement, but I do know the core message of obviously he wanted black people to go back to Africa and for all of us to be kind of together. I know there's more to that. I'm just kind of summarizing it. Obviously, I'm not giving the best explanation, but that was kind of the main thing about it. But again, I don't agree with the whole movement of all black people need to be under one roof and all black people need to be together, because I don't know if that would necessarily work, because all black people, you'll never get all black people to agree on one thing, because at the end of the day we're all individual people. I feel like this whole thing where we try to group races together, it won't work because so many people have different opinions. For me personally, the core message of where Dr. Umar's coming from, I don't really agree with, because again, I think trying to group black people in one group just won't work and will never work, right? You know, Malcolm X tried doing that at the start. And when you go back and you read about Malcolm X, he was betrayed by his own people as well. So it's like, I just don't think it will work. I'm going to finish off this podcast though. You guys let me know in the comments below, especially if you're religious, let me know your opinions.
And because of that, you cannot organize African people around religions when every religion is chauvinistic. You follow me? Yeah. Believing that their way is the only way. Now, Christianity was African in the beginning. Islam was African in the beginning. Yeshua bin Yusuf was an African. Muhammad ibn Abdullah was an African. His mother was a black Sudanese Arab. Okay, so we know what race they belong to. But these religions were taken. The Christianity was taken by the white man. Islam was taken by the white Arab and given back to us. They reinvented and gave them back to us, and they gave them back to us with the perspective of the colonizer and the invader. These religions were used to enslave. These religions were used to colonize. And so when they gave the religions back to us, we also picked up the culture of the colonizer as well. And that's why I'll walk into a room and say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And if you don't agree with that, then you ain't on the right path. Well, a Christian walking in and say, you know, Jesus is the Son of God and you know, blah, blah, blah. And if you ain't on that page, we can't work together. Because I still come across African people who will tell you, I can't work with you if you're not a Christian. I can't work with you if you're not a Muslim.
Yeah, I think at its core, that's not a Christian value to hold then at the end of the day.
It is.
Yeah, I think that's what comes in with the colonizer mentality. If you want to bring it down to that, yeah. But I think at its core that wouldn't be a true expression.
Let me go another way.
Okay, that was a good clip actually. Let me know what you guys think. I'm not the biggest on religion. I don't know too much. If anything, if I had to pick, I guess a religion that I follow, it would be Buddhism. I've not done I've done quite a bit of research into Buddhism, and I kind of like what Buddhism is, I guess, because the Buddha doesn't tell you to agree with everything he says. He tells you to think for himself, think for yourself, right? That's, at least that's what the core message, or what most of the message is from Buddhism, and that's why I lean to Buddhism more, because Dr. Umar is right in one case where a lot of religions, if you don't think the way they think, or if you don't agree with them, they are very tribalistic in that sense, right? Whereas I feel like Buddhism isn't that way, right? Obviously you'll probably get Buddhists as well that are very tribalistic, probably, right? I think you get that with all people or stuff, right? But yeah, again, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know, do you think religion would get in the way of a black movement? Again, I just don't think we should think in terms of color, right? That's just my stance on it. That's always going to be my stance. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out. Peace.